I've had Tesla owners come to me completely puzzled. Their range is dropping faster than expected, their interior is starting to look worn, and their battery health is declining ahead of schedule. And in most of those cases, when we trace it back, the culprit is the same thing: how the car was parked and what settings were left running in the heat. Whether you drive a Model 3, Model Y, Model S, or Model X, these are 9 mistakes I see repeatedly, and most owners have no idea they're making them. We're counting down from 9 to 1, and I promise by the time we hit number 1, you'll look at a sunny parking lot very differently. Let's get into it. Mistake number 9. Not adjusting tire pressure in hot weather. Most people associate tire pressure issues with winter. The cold drops it, the warning light comes on, you add a few PSI and move on. What catches Tesla owners off guard is that summer does the exact opposite, and overinflated tires in the heat carry their own set of problems that quietly build up over time. Heat causes the air inside tires to expand. After a long highway run on hot summer pavement, it's not unusual to see pressures climb several PSI above where you started. I've seen Model 3 and Model Y owners come back from a summer road trip with pressures sitting at 47 or 48 PSI, when the recommended range hovers around 42. On a Model S or Model X, with their heavier curb weight and wider tire footprints, the handling changes from overinflation can be even more noticeable to the driver. When tires run above optimal pressure, the contact patch shrinks. That's the actual footprint of rubber touching the road. Less contact means reduced traction, slightly longer braking distances, and a stiffer ride that puts more stress on suspension components over time. The center of the tread also wears faster than the edges, which creates uneven wear patterns that shorten the life of an expensive set of tires. Here's a detail specific to sun parking that most people never consider. If your Tesla sits in direct sunlight with one side exposed and the other in shade, the sun-facing tires heat up more and build higher pressure than the shaded side. Over a full summer of parking in the same orientation, say always with the driver's side facing the afternoon sun, you can develop a subtle but real asymmetry in wear between left and right tires. Parking in shade eliminates that unevenness entirely. And checking tire pressure on hot days, not just cold ones, keeps everything within the range where your Tesla handles and rides the way it was designed to. Mistake number 8. Ignoring your cabin air filter in a hot, humid climate. This is probably the least dramatic mistake on this list, but it's one of the most consistent complaints I hear from Tesla owners in warmer regions. And what most of them don't realize is that a neglected cabin air filter does more than just create a bad smell. It actually affects how hard the HVAC system has to work on every single hot day. Tesla's cabin air filter sits in the path of air flowing into the climate system and catches pollen, dust, and airborne particles before they circulate through the cabin. Over time, organic material builds up: leaves, fine debris, microscopic particles. In a hot, humid climate, that accumulated material combines with the moisture that naturally forms inside an AC system and creates ideal conditions for mold and mildew to develop. The first sign owners usually notice is a musty smell the moment the AC kicks on. By the time that smell is obvious, the filter has typically been overdue for a while. Tesla's official recommendation is a replacement interval of around 2 years. In my experience, that timeline works reasonably well in dry climates. But for owners in the Southeast US, Gulf Coast, Florida, or anywhere with consistently hot and humid summers, a yearly replacement is more realistic. The combination of heat and trapped moisture accelerates biological growth inside the filter significantly faster than in dry conditions. What surprises owners is the energy side of this. When the filter is clogged and airflow is restricted, the blower motor works harder to push the same volume of air through the vents. On a hot day, when the AC is already running at high capacity, that added resistance puts an extra load on the system, which translates to slightly more battery consumption and noticeably less effective cabin cooling. You're running the AC hard and getting less out of it. The good news is, this is one of the easiest and cheapest maintenance tasks on any Tesla. The process takes about 15 minutes. Tesla has a detailed guide on their website, and aftermarket filters compatible with the Model 3, Model Y, Model S, and Model X cost a fraction of what you'd pay at a service center. If your AC has smelled off this summer and you can't remember the last time you changed the filter, that's your answer right there. Mistake number 7. Skipping the windshield sunshade and roof shade. I've worked on Tesla interiors that looked years older than the car's actual age, and in most of those situations, the vehicle spent a lot of time parked in direct sun without any protection on the glass. Tesla's design philosophy leans heavily on glass. The panoramic roof on the Model 3 and Model Y, the massive windshield, the full-length glass roof on the Model S and Model X. It's part of what makes these cabins feel open and premium. But parked in direct summer sun, all that glass works against you. It traps heat aggressively, and cabin temperatures can climb well past 140 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes reaching 150 on a genuinely hot day. That level of sustained heat creates real thermal stress on everything inside the cabin, not just the occupants. What tends to fail first is the dashboard material along the top surface closest to the windshield. It develops a slight tackiness initially, then dulls, then begins to crack from repeated thermal expansion and contraction cycles. The steering wheel is the next common casualty. Tesla's vegan leather covering, used across the Model 3, Model Y, and available on the Model S and Model X, is particularly vulnerable to heat and UV exposure. Tesla actually issued official service bulletins acknowledging material separation on steering wheels in Model 3 and Model Y vehicles produced from roughly 2020 through 2023, and separately for the yoke steering wheel in early Model S and Model X units. Getting a steering wheel replaced at a Tesla service center typically runs several $100s in parts and labor, for a problem that a sunshade largely prevents. Beyond interior preservation, there's a practical battery benefit worth knowing. A cooler cabin means cabin overheat protection, which we'll get to, has to run less frequently and work less hard. A quality windshield sunshade can drop interior temperatures by up to 30 degrees Fahrenheit on its own. A roof shade handles the overhead glass panel. Custom-fit versions for most Tesla models run $30 to $80 on Amazon and install in under a minute. If you have children who sit in the rear seats of a Model Y or Model 3, the roof shade matters even more. Glass surface temperatures in direct sun can reach levels that cause immediate skin contact burns. Mistake number 6. Leaving Sentry mode on all day without power. Sentry mode is something I'd never tell anyone to stop using entirely. It's a genuinely valuable security feature. But leaving it running all day in a hot parking lot without a charger connected is a combination that regularly surprises owners when they check their battery level. The feature keeps your Tesla fully awake. All 8 cameras are active. The onboard computer is processing and recording video continuously, and the car is in a constant state of readiness. Real-world data from Tesla owners and third-party monitoring apps puts the drain at roughly 7 to 14% of battery every 24 hours on a Model 3 or Model Y. That range shifts depending on the software version, ambient temperature, and how frequently the cameras detect activity in the surrounding area. What I've seen happen more than once is someone parks at the airport for a week, Sentry mode running the whole time, summer heat adding to the thermal load, and they come back to a car that's critically low or too depleted to safely drive to a nearby charger. Nothing malfunctioned. The car did exactly what it was told. It's just that nobody ran the numbers before leaving. Tesla rolled out efficiency improvements to Sentry mode in late 2024, targeting how the onboard processor handles video to cut power consumption meaningfully. That update made a real difference, but the drain is still substantial enough to plan around for any extended parking scenario. My recommendation: for trips longer than 2 or 3 days, turn Sentry mode off and park in a covered structure instead. In your settings, you can also exclude specific locations, like your home address. So the feature automatically disables when you pull into your driveway without you having to remember to do it manually every time. Mistake number 5. Checking the Tesla app too frequently while parked. This one surprises people every time because it seems so harmless. You're just checking the app. What could that possibly do? Every time you open the Tesla app to check the battery level, pull up the camera feed, verify the charge state, you wake the car up. The vehicle's computer systems power on, establish a live connection with the app, respond to the query, and then wait to see if another request is coming. If you check again in 20 minutes, the car never properly went back to sleep. Tesla vehicles are designed to enter a deep sleep mode roughly 7 to 10 minutes after all activity stops. In that state, the passive drain drops to around 1 to 2% per day across the Model 3, Model Y, Model S, and Model X, which is perfectly manageable over a week of parking. But a car that gets pinged repeatedly throughout the day never reaches that deep sleep state. It idles, systems stay partially active, and in summer heat, that also means thermal management runs intermittently in the background, adding to the drain. I spoke with an owner who set up a Tesla app widget on his phone's home screen and couldn't work out why his battery kept dropping faster than expected on a trip. What was happening is every time he unlocked his phone to check messages, to use an app, anything, the widget refreshed automatically and sent a wake signal to the car. It never slept properly for the entire 5 days he was away. Third-party Tesla apps carry the same risk, and in some cases, a bigger one. Some of them poll the car on a set timer in the background, every few minutes in certain configurations, to keep their data current. Check the settings on any third-party apps you have installed, adjust their polling frequency, or simply revoke their background access when you know the car will be parked for an extended period. Mistake number 4. Running cabin overheat protection unplugged in extreme heat. Cabin overheat protection is a feature I genuinely recommend, but with a clear understanding of the conditions where it makes sense versus where it quietly drains your battery faster than most owners expect. What it does is straightforward. When your parked Tesla detects the cabin temperature climbing dangerously high, it activates the climate system to bring it back down. In direct summer sun, cabin temperatures in a Model Y, with that large panoramic glass roof, can build surprisingly fast. I've seen interior temperatures push well past 140 degrees Fahrenheit in cases where the car was left without any shading. At that level, thermal stress on interior materials is significant. Trim panels, adhesives, electronics, and seat materials all take a hit. The feature addresses a real problem. The issue is what it costs to run it when the car isn't plugged in. On a genuinely hot day, 95 to 100 degrees outside, car in direct sun, the AC is essentially fighting an ongoing battle with the environment. The cabin heats back up almost as fast as the system cools it down. Some owners have reported losing close to 15% of battery in a single afternoon this way. Tesla's own documentation acknowledges this directly, noting the feature draws from the battery and will reduce available range. The smart approach splits into two situations. At home, leave the car plugged in before enabling cabin overheat protection. It draws from the grid, the cabin stays protected, and the battery isn't touched. Away from a charger, switch to fan-only mode in your safety settings rather than running full AC. It won't hold the cabin at a comfortable temperature, but it prevents the truly damaging peak heat buildup while using a small fraction of the energy that full AC would require. That trade-off is worth making in almost every unplugged situation. Mistake number 3. Charging your Tesla in full sun. Charging in direct sunlight seems counterintuitive as a mistake. You're adding energy, not consuming it. But what's happening inside the pack during that process is why this deserves its own place on this list. When your Model 3, Model Y, Model S, or Model X is actively charging, the battery's thermal management system is trying to hold the cells within a specific temperature window. Lithium-ion cells charge most efficiently and with the least internal stress when the pack stays in a controlled range. And that range is well below what direct summer sun pushes the car toward. When you charge outside on a 95-degree day with the car in full sun, the thermal system is simultaneously trying to fill the battery and cool it down. Those two demands compete directly with each other. In practice, what usually happens is the car's software throttles the charge rate automatically to prevent the pack from getting too hot. Customers sometimes notice their Model 3 or Model Y charging slower than usual on a hot afternoon and assume there's a hardware problem. More often than not, the car is just protecting itself. It finishes the charge eventually, but it takes longer, and the thermal management system runs harder throughout, adding wear that accumulates over repeated sessions. On a Model S or Model X with a 100 kWh pack, the thermal system has more mass to manage and tends to run longer under those conditions. Scheduling your charging through Tesla's built-in schedule feature, set it in the charging menu to finish just before your typical departure, means the pack is cool when charging begins, the session runs more efficiently, and you're not sitting in a hot parking lot waiting for a throttled charge to finish. Mistake number 2, not knowing what the sun is doing to your battery chemistry. Most Tesla owners think of sun damage as a surface-level concern. A hot cabin, maybe some fading on the seats. What's less visible is the effect that sustained heat has on the battery chemistry itself, and that's where the long-term cost really lives. Tesla's lithium-ion cells, Whether you're on the 82 kWh long-range pack in a Model Y or the 100 kWh unit in a Model S or Model X, have what's called an SEI layer on the anode. SEI stands for Solid Electrolyte Interface, and it functions as a protective membrane inside each individual cell. In my experience tracing degradation patterns, repeated heat exposure is one of the factors that gradually breaks that layer down over time. As it deteriorates, the cells have to spend energy repairing and maintaining their own internal chemistry rather than storing and delivering power. That lost capacity doesn't come back. Researchers at Recurrent, who track real-world battery degradation across tens of thousands of electric vehicles, identified around 86 degrees Fahrenheit as the temperature threshold where this accelerated aging process becomes more pronounced. That's not the air temperature inside the cabin. It's the temperature around the pack itself. A car sitting in a summer parking lot in the sun can reach and sustain that threshold without the interior feeling dramatically different to the touch. What makes this pattern frustrating is how gradually it shows up. Usually what happens is owners notice their estimated range quietly dropping over a couple of summers and assume it's just normal aging. Sometimes that's true. But in situations where the car has been regularly parked in direct sun with certain settings running, sentry mode, cabin overheat protection unplugged, or consistently sitting at 100% charge, the degradation tends to arrive faster than the mileage alone would suggest. Mistake number 1. Parking at 100% state of charge in the sun. In my experience, this is the single most damaging habit on this entire list. And most owners only discover the impact after the capacity loss has already accumulated. Here's the specific detail that matters. Lithium-ion cells are under their highest level of internal chemical stress when fully charged. At 100%, the electrodes are maximally saturated, and the electrochemical side reactions that cause irreversible capacity loss happen fastest at that charge state. Heat accelerates all of those reactions significantly. So when you combine a fully charged battery with hours of sustained sun exposure, you're running the degradation process at an elevated rate, and it compounds every time you repeat the combination. Tesla defaults the daily charge limit to 80% in the software for this exact reason. That number isn't arbitrary. It reflects what battery engineers know about keeping cells in a lower stress state for regular use. What I commonly see is owners bump that limit to 100% before a long trip, which makes complete sense. But then something comes up, they don't leave right away, and the car sits fully charged through a hot afternoon or overnight into the next morning, parked outside in direct sun. That's when the damage accumulates fastest. The financial weight of this is worth being clear about. A Model 3 or Model Y battery replacement outside of warranty typically runs $10,000 to $15,000 depending on pack configuration and labor. A Model S or Model X with a 100 kWh pack can reach $15,000 to $22,000. Those aren't costs most owners budget for, and they tend to arrive earlier in the car's life when the battery has been regularly exposed to the high charge, high heat combination over multiple summers. The practical rule I always give people: charge to 100% only when a specific trip actually requires it, and plan to leave within a couple of hours of reaching that level. For everything else, daily driving, regular parking, overnight charges, keep the limit set to 80% and leave it there. It's the single change that does the most to protect long-term battery health across every Tesla model on the market today. Those are the 9 mistakes, counted down from the ones that matter to the one that matters most. And the common thread through all of them is that the damage is quiet. You won't feel it after one hot afternoon. But across a summer or two of making these mistakes consistently, the battery health numbers, the interior condition, and eventually the service bills start reflecting it. Most of the fixes here cost nothing. They're setting changes or small habit adjustments. A few involve inexpensive accessories or basic maintenance that pays for itself quickly in avoided damage. None of it is complicated once you know what to look for. If this was helpful, hit like and subscribe. I cover real, practical Tesla content every week. See you in the next one.